Because of their small stature and whimsical outfits, Bloodborne's messengers initially seem to be just goofy little guys that haunt the hunter's dream. And because several of these tiny creatures can be found continuously clapping, a popular belief among the Bloodborne fanbase is that the messengers are cheering us on throughout the game. But is that really what's happening here? In this video, we'll dig a little deeper and discover that the messengers aren't really celebrating us, and this clapping behavior isn't just some afterthought in From Software's design. Instead, it's yet another signal confirming that the hunter is dead. We've seen in previous videos on my channel that the messengers are steeped in religious and cultural norms and imagery that primarily connect these oddball creatures to the concepts of death and unborn children. Through this ongoing examination, we've been able to see that the messengers depict the spirits of dead infants or dead fetuses, serving in a sense as distorted angelic figures. Although we've previously addressed their presence in the baths, the tree stump, and at the base of the lamps, there's an interesting wrinkle that we haven't examined. Why are they clapping? As I mentioned at the outset, I think it's fair to say that most players assume the messengers are clapping to celebrate the hunter. That's understandable considering the item descriptions of the messenger's gift and the notebook tell us that these, quote, inhabitants of the dream revere the brave hunters. But if that's all we consider, we end up glossing over tons of relevant information we receive through environmental cues. As we advance in gameplay and obtain various badges like the Saw Hunter badge for example, additional messengers will appear in the baths within the hunter's dream. Of the 11 messengers that we can eventually find in the primary bath, several can be seen clapping their hands. Interestingly though, they're not all clapping the same way. Although some are clapping non-stop, two messengers are clapping to their own unique rhythm. And these two unique patterns very likely were integrated to mimic the two most common clapping rituals employed in Japanese society. First, let's take a look at the messenger that's leaning over the front of the bath. We can see that its pattern includes 3 quick claps followed by a slap to the side of the bath. It helps if we speed up the animation a little bit. We can count out the clapping. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This clapping behavior appears to be a reference to the Japanese custom of tetsime, the ceremonial clapping of hands that signifies the closing of a business deal or negotiation. Traditionally, a specific version of tetsime called ipponsime involves 10 total claps, which includes 3 rounds of 3 quick claps, followed by a brief pause and then a final clap, such that it would be counted out as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've linked a video in the description showing tetsime in practice, in this case showing the conclusion of auctions at a Tokyo fish market. If we view them side by side, we can see the similarity in the clapping cadence, with 3 rapid claps followed by a brief pause and then a final clap, or in this case, a slap to the side of the bath. Because the messengers are the vendors of Bloodborne, from whom we purchase items and consumables, this particular clapping pattern that mimics the ipponsime custom makes sense. I recall some players speculating after Bloodborne was released that the non-stop clapping behaviors of other bath messengers might be a nod to the clapping and shouting of street vendors. There's a decent argument for that idea considering the clapping messengers can only be found within the baths. None of the messengers we find at the Headstones of Awakening, those holding lore notes, or those in the stump can be seen clapping. This behavior is exclusive to the messengers found in the baths, which again serve as the shops of Bloodborne. With that said, I don't believe the messengers clapping is entirely a reference to commerce. In fact, I think the main example of clapping was implemented to give us a degree of insight about the player character. As we've discussed in other videos, the messengers are connected over and over again to the concept of death. And it's not just that numerous signals indicate the messengers are dead. Many times they indicate that we, the player character, are dead. One of the most direct clues to this effect is the placement of the messengers at the warp locations in the Hunter's Dream, all 11 of which are depictions of gravestones. That certainly ties them to the concept of death, and suggests that the player character's use of these headstones of awakening to travel between worlds constitutes a sort of resurrection event, or transit between the land of the dead and the land of the living. Meanwhile, in online mode, the messengers will appear alongside a tiny tombstone marking the site of a player's loss in a PvP fight. They're here at the gravestone mourning the player character's death. What does that have to do with the bath messengers? As you might have noticed, the messenger in the middle of the bath doesn't clap as frequently as the others. It's periodically clasping its hands and then clapping briefly. This guy is also what we might call the first messenger, or the original messenger. It's the one that's present in the bath at the very beginning of the game, sitting there by its lonesome. It's there even before we can buy anything from the messengers. This messenger claps, then holds its hands together momentarily. But it's not just that it claps in some random fashion. It claps twice. And critically, just as with the other messengers, we can't hear this clapping at all. This is somewhat intriguing considering the messengers aren't completely silent. We can hear them making a moaning or gurgling noise of some sort when we interact with them. But this clapping action has no sound whatsoever. So why would we observe this messenger, part of a supernatural species we've characterized as the spiritual manifestation of dead fetuses, silently clapping twice and then clasping its hands together? Shinto funerals involve numerous unique rituals, ceremonial items, and memorial practices. Among these is a custom known as tsunobide. This ritual is somewhat similar to the customs employed when visiting Shinto shrines or gravesites, signified by 2 initial bows. But what separates tsunobide from other sacred rituals is the unique step that follows: 2 silent claps, then the clasping of one's hands. I've linked a video in the description that demonstrates this ceremonial practice as observed within a Shinto funeral service. This messenger, the one that's present the entire game even before we can purchase a single item, is signaling to us from the moment we first arrive in the Hunter's Dream, having died in the waking world for the first time, that we, in fact, are dead. It's here silently clapping twice as if to honor our dead spirit. And this realm, the Hunter's Dream, as we've noted countless times, is in fact our afterlife home. Thanks for watching.